Welcome back to another episode of The Athlete's Commute. Today, I'm very excited to pick up maybe the most athletic person that I've personally ever met. She's a multi-sport athlete to a Division I track and field and cross-country athlete to now being a paramedic firefighter in California. She's got a fascinating story, so I cannot wait to go pick up Angela Ziff and take her to the gym. Also known as my sister. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
All right, we are headed to the gym. And so me and you obviously talk every day. It's no secret you're my sister. But I want to dive into a lot of more of your athletic background, your athletic career, your journey. So that's going to be what I'm going to be asking you today.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to.
Where do I look?
Angela just exists.
Okay.
So I want to start back in high school because we both started as soccer players among some other sports, but you started to focus on running. So kind of tell me about that decision back then.
So I always loved soccer. Soccer was my favorite, first passion. And then when I started track and cross country in high school, that's when Title IX came out and there was like different scholarship opportunities for different sports. And then also the way soccer was going, I was getting injured more in different ways and stuff. And then when I started to apply to college, whether it be for soccer or track, because that Title IX change, there was more opportunities for scholarship for track and cross country.
Oh, wow. I actually hadn't heard you explain it like that because from my perspective also, I think there's not a lot of track and running opportunities before high school. So you almost don't know also your potential in it. And you had a bit of an explosive out of the gate career for running.
Yeah, and I think that's because of soccer. Because soccer, I was center back and then in the wing a lot. And then you're working on constant endurance and muscle fatigue and pushing through that. And so I think that builds a super strong foundation. I think soccer builds a really strong foundation for track and vice versa. I think track can build a really strong foundation for soccer.
So then how did you know that you loved it enough to then seek out being recruited by it or take up that opportunity?
I think it was the fact that I just started my days with it. Like I'd wake up and just run. Like I'd go run somewhere or start the days and it felt really good. And I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. And I always loved the physical contact of soccer. So I really missed that in track and cross country. But then the big thing with track was the different events, like being able to do the 4x4 or trying the steeplechase or, you know, doing the 400 or 800 meters and then the extreme fatigue. And at the end, you know, they'd like describe that runner high, but it was like totally a thing.
It was a thing.
Yeah, it was totally a thing.
Because I think a lot of people, I mean, you hear about the runner's high and you think, okay, maybe any person can channel that, but so many people have just never experienced it. Is that something that you get even in any training or is that a race feeling?
I get it in training all the time, all the time. And I got it in soccer too, you know, like being able to like chase down players or whatnot. So, but I get it in training all the time, even now, like not competing in track and cross country, I still get that feeling constantly.
Okay, so you were then recruited Division I at University of Nevada, Las Vegas for both cross country and track and field. Tell me about that move there. You grew up in California. Tell me about that move there into that Division I atmosphere and your sport at that level.
Different expectations. So I went to UNLV in Vegas and going there was incredible. So I did go for a full ride scholarship, but there were some incredible athletes that didn't go for a full ride scholarship that were just amazing to watch as well because they earned it over time. And it was just a different level of, right, like you have the balance of, we had our school schedule for UNLV, and I think for most colleges, that you have to keep a minimum GPA in order to be on the team. Right. UNLV developed a study hall program to develop a way for athletes to kind of balance their segment a period of time that they go and study. And then so the way that we went into it is we'd have practice at 6 a.m. So we get up typically at 5, we'd walk to the track and cross. And so for us, right, it's year round. And because our races for cross country were in the fall, and then track races kind of expanded into like winter and then spring.
Oh, it really is year round.
It really is year round. And so we go to practice, and that would be from like 6 to 9 a.m. ish. And then typically my first class started at 10. And then I'd be in class, and everybody's schedule is like pretty much similar to this, is right? Like you're in schedule at different periods, and then in the middle of the day, typically, I'm trying to remember, but I think for us it was around like 2 p.m. We'd go and lift. And so that's where we would lift. And then after that, typically some people had night classes or we'd study. But for us, or sometimes like especially for cross country, we hit certain mileage in a week. So then we'd have a second workout later. And that wasn't lifting. It was like another track practice, or cross training, or
so a first taste at almost this full-time job, just revolving studies, but a lot of physical activity. It's actually really fun to hear about, because I grew up with you and we shared a room till you went to college, so we knew every little thing about each other, what was happening during the day. But even some of this, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize your schedule was like that, which is weird as a sister, because usually,
you know,
I should know. Jesus,
you definitely should know.
So now you get into competing at Division I, and like you mentioned, you were on a full ride there. And does that come with a level of pressure? Does just competing, especially in a sometimes more individualized sport, come with a different level of pressure?
There is a different level of pressure, I think, at that level across all athletes, and obviously I can't speak for all athletes, but I think for me, my pressure came internal. I think the pressures that, again, speaking for myself, as athletes, like, it's the pressure you put on yourself, like the pride you put on yourself, because it's still a team. Like track and cross country is still a team, so how I did overall would completely contribute to the rankings. And I know that I was going through my own difficult spaces and difficult things that I was dealing with on a personal level, but that totally trickles into how you mentally or emotionally or physically handle that and balance, like, your schedule and your balance, whether it be from the classroom or on the track, and how it contributes to the team as a whole. So the pressure that I felt, I don't think necessarily was individual, as in like I have to do really well for me. I felt a lot of pressure as in like I want to make sure I'm doing really well to one, live up to the standard and expectation that I've created and I need to create. And then 2 is like for my girls, for your team, you're like, oh, the big pressures was like, I need to perform well because she's relying on me, we're relying on each other, or, like I think my scholarship came at, I got very lucky, and watching some girls that were running their butt off and crushing it, and then developing scholarships later, you're like, man, like, they're really earning this. Right. I'm not going to take for granted this opportunity. Yeah. So I think that was more of the pressure.
And because, you even explained that runner's high, and that feeling it gives you, which contributes to then your love of doing it, then getting into that level of competition and that experience. How was it? How were those headspaces for you? And was it easy or difficult to maintain the love that you originated from it?
Of track. Of loving the actual sport. I love the sport. But some of the reason I love it too is probably generally the reason most people love sports is watching your other teammates get intense in racing. Oh, fun. I loved watching the sprinters. They're crazy. Like, they're so strong and explosive, and the energy at a college track meet is insane, and we see it on TV all the time when we watch these national competitions and championship competitions, and that energy there, or energy on a field for your own teammates, and screaming at the 4x4 or the 100, and so just the sport, just being around sports and energy in general is really invigorating. It's really fun.
I experienced that on my own level, but hearing you talk about that within the sport of track and field, I think is something that's exploding still in the United States around the Olympics. And and so it's fun to hear someone that was so deeply entrenched in the sport talk about it that way. for your more personal level, and you saying you going through that with headspaces, how were those the latter years of your college experience and getting into then segueing into what is now your career, just as, if not more, athletic and challenging of being a paramedic firefighter? So can you talk about like then transitioning into that, but also the latter years of your college experience?
Sure. So I had a very incredible college coach. Jabri Harris is his name.
Shout out.
Shout out. He was really pivotal in my life in a lot of ways at a time that, which again, I'm sure a lot of people go through in college. You're developing so much of yourself by, you live away from home. Now you're taking more control into this step in like actual adulthood, but taking ownership and responsibilities of like your grades and expectations and performance levels, right? Time management, your physical health, your mental health. And I struggled with an eating disorder since high school, which so I had a bit of an eating disorder that started in high school and really affected me in quite a few ways. Mentally, right, like there's that piece of it, but then physically I developed osteopenia really early, and I started fracturing my foot.
So is that what osteopenia is?
Osteopenia is, and I don't want to like butcher this, but osteopenia is pre-osteoporosis.
Okay.
Which is the strength essentially in your bones.
Okay.
And so from like my own impacts that I've created on myself from, those struggles, those eating struggles, and some of those eating struggles came from whether it's like control I wanted to develop in my personal life, or all the way to just, my physique in cross country was always like a bit like thicker in build than these other really slim girls that, and I think that we experience it in a lot of ways. I think men really have to face that as well. We all experience it, like football players, right? Like depending on the position they're in, they're either bigger, they're stockier, they're stronger, they're more explosive, and that develops all the way to soccer, to track. And so that was like some of my own personal struggle was with that side of it and feeling like I needed to be smaller. So anyway, I started developing these fractures in my foot, and over time I got these stress fractures over and over again, and it would heal, but because the blood flow and circulation to that part of the body isn't as strong as these other places, it would take a really long time to heal. So I'd end up on crutches or in a boot or whatnot because my arch would start to collapse in my foot.
It took a really long time for, I don't know if you knew that was stemming to also the way you were treating your own body, but for other people to know that was what was causing the fractures.
Yeah, and I didn't talk about it. When I was like, I lived in my own head with it. I felt embarrassed at that age with it. And I was also, those expectations of laying your team down, that was a very real reality. And to me, speaking about these injuries or this struggle that they had no impact on and it wasn't their responsibility to handle, it was my responsibility to work on. I was like, why am I going to talk about or burden them with it? That was what went through my head. So this coach I had took me to an eating disorder specialist, and he was incredible. He was a phenomenal coach. And through that, so my latter years, like my last year of track, my foot fractured again. And it was kind of the moment for me that I was like, you know what, my body is starting to fail me in different ways.
Yeah.
So that was when I decided to make a transition away from track and cross country. Part of it was to physically heal because I could feel the impact it was having on my body. And then the other part of it was mentally, to just work on myself and my own stuff. So when I developed out of that, there was a girl I ran with, and his dad was a captain at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wait, I'm going to pause you there because I have a question. So what time in your college career did you decide to step away from the sport?
I started considering it junior year, and I stepped away my last year.
Okay, and didn't compete throughout your senior year?
I didn't. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it was my whole last senior year that I didn't compete.
And then was there a moment?
Or maybe it was like it was like the last season of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there a moment how difficult was it to make that call? I mean, people watching, anyone who's loved a sport or competed in a sport knows that it's hard for anyone to step away at any point, even when your body's failing you, especially if you're, mid in the heights of where you could be in your career. So I'm curious if there was a moment, or how was making that final decision and maybe relaying that even to our family.
Yeah, there was a lot that went through my head. So talking to mom and dad about it, they were very supportive, which was amazing, because I had to be very straightforward and honest about the struggle, and then they knew about the struggle that I was experiencing. But internally, there was a lot of doubt I had, like, man, should I have chosen soccer? I loved soccer, played it from 4 to 20 essentially, and I think, should I have chosen soccer, maybe I wouldn't have been worried about how my body looked as much, or in those kind of ways. And then the other piece of it was, I think in sports we identify, so our life is structured around it, sports, right? Like, you grow up playing it, so your friends are surrounded by it. The structure of the rest of your life, your weekends are spent doing it. You miss dances and all these events, but it's like the best time of your life. And then as you get older and you do more of it, now all of a sudden other people start identifying you through it. So your own personal identity encompasses so much of what other people think about you with it, what you think about yourself with it, how you structure your days with it. And so stepping away from it, I genuinely felt like I was totally failing everything. I felt like I was failing myself and who I was. I felt like I was totally letting my team down and failing them in the commitment I had. I felt like I was letting down a coach who really supported me through my struggles, and that my side of it is I wanted to finish my seasons, and then our family, So that's went through my head. But the one thing that always stuck with me was, like, my love of having a team. Having a team was huge. And so what I did was, my last senior year, is I shifted that focus into becoming an explorer. So I did the North Las Vegas Explorer program,
which is, now she's talking about getting into firefighting. So Explorer is kind of an introduction as someone starts exploring that career.
Yes. So at this point now, I was finishing college. That's when I started working at Topgolf Vegas. If anybody's been, highly recommend. And then
shout out.
and then I started working on the ambulance, and my EMT worked on the ambulance for a bit. And while I was doing that, I was in the North Las Vegas Explorer program. And typically you have to be under 21, but for North Vegas Explorer program, at least when I was there, you had to be under 21 to join, but then you can stay in it for a while after that.
So, and as you got into Explorers and started progressing into your career, when were you starting? Did you always know the physical demand that was going to be asked of you and expected of you? Or is this something that you realized as you progressed, how physically intensive it was going to be? Or did you just not care because, you love it?
Yeah, it's just so fun.
You were already lifting and loving it.
Yeah, I figured that, I knew that there's a high demand of, like, physicality with it. And obviously at that time I didn't understand everything about it. But, oh my gosh, like, just working out and being active and, like, soccer, being aggressive, it's just so fun. That I wasn't worried about it. I was like, and then the team side of it, and to me it just felt like walking into another sport in another arena. And I was like, oh, I'm just amped. Like, I'm just ready to start doing something physical like that. And so then I started lifting in a different way, and doing more strength lifts. And that was based on what I was feeling on the job, or at Explorers. And then after that is when, I met my husband,
who's also a paramedic firefighter.
And so he, when we met, he had been already working in Canada for 10 years. And this was, like, during COVID, right? So the border was closing, and we'd only known each other for like 6 months. And, we peaced out. We eloped.
Yep. COVID times
Yeah,
are crazy. So how was it then, as you get into now a whole other chapter, just as physically demanding, something that you love just as much, now navigating that career and being a woman in a typically male-dominated career? How has that been, and what are you excited for? Because I know you love the position, but it's come with its challenges. And it's hard in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that everybody in general, man, woman, whoever, everybody has their own stuff. Everybody comes to the table with their own like baggage or suitcase or whatever. And I love it. Like firefighting to me, when I started in Explorers, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the crew. I fell in love with the physicality. I really enjoy, you know, my mechanical aptitude skills is something that I've always had to really work on, because I didn't work on cars. I didn't understand machinery or chainsaws or things like that off the bat.
And some of that comes with just not being brought up, like maybe how some boys or men are brought up.
Yeah, like I didn't work with dad in the garage.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't my focus. My focus was on track and soccer. So now getting the opportunity to do it, it was very mentally challenging in really good ways. And so now so I've been on the job now for about 5 years.
Wow.
And it's just a giant family. Like, yeah, there's, you know, I'm sure I piss off some people, you know, and some guys just like, you know, we bug each other sometimes, but it is totally a family, and
you work together, you rely on each other.
I love the guys I work with. I like the demand of it. I think being in sports too, you're around more competitive environments, so I think that's a great mentality to come in with. And you know, I'm not competing with my guys, but I have a self competition internally to like stick with it. But then you also have this like gruntness and grit to just like, oh, I'm gonna grind. Like I like being in it, you know. I want to be in the dirt. I want to be getting after it. I want to be throwing a ladder. I want to be sweating, you know, and I want to be doing it with them, because doing it with them, you just look at the guy next to you and you're like, wow, I'm exhausted. That was awesome.
Right.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah. And
it's you bond. That in itself is that, you know, unspoken way of bonding that people also in athletics understand. You walk away from a fitness session and for some reason you're closer to the girls who were throwing up next to you.
yeah. You're like, damn girl, like, that was sick.
Yeah.
That was awesome for sure. And you know, and it really is like, they talk about that runner high, but it's like the workout high. It's, you know, it's the training high. It's like you go and you train on something or get on a fire and go inside or be on a roof and you're just like, that was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome.
So being on this podcast, very excited you agreed to do this. Not your usual thing.
Having me.
It's called the Athlete's Commute, and a lot of that is because in all different ways we can relate to the commute of growing up going to soccer training or going to track and field training, or now what you do to train. I want you to kind of touch on that and what that current commute is for you. I mean, sometimes you're living at a station and the commute is hopping on the equipment in the fire station, sometimes driving to the gym. So what's that?
So like physical wise for the job, I really firmly feel like when I'm working with someone, guy, girl, whoever, and they look at me, I take a lot of pride in that. I want them to trust me. Like I want them to know that if they got in a bad spot, or if, you know, if they're fatigued and we have to help each other more, or I need to step up more, that they can trust me that no matter what situation we're in, I'm going to hold up my end of this. And I feel really strongly about that. And so part of that leads into why I choose to lift the way I do. And, you know, everybody has like I know there's like political stigmas around things and stuff, but to me, it has nothing to do with politics. It's like, this is the job. This is the job. Like, I think that you should be able to do pull-ups comfortably. Like, I think that, to me, when I was training, my thing was like, okay, I know that these are like the heaviest ladders we have, and this is how much like the heaviest person at my station weighs with their gear on. So I want to be able to drag them comfortably. Wow. So I want to be able to.
How many pounds is that sometimes
for like a human, or like, okay, so for our ladder, so for our ladder, we carry aluminum ladders. Where my husband works, they carry wood, so they're different. So for us, 135 pounds for our aluminum ladder. It's the 35, and we do it with 2 people.
And you have your equipment on too.
Yes, we have our gear on.
Which weighs how much?
It weighs about 75 pounds.
Wow.
With our gear on. But so to me, for us, our heaviest ladder is aluminum. So for me, my goals when I was training for academy, and then even now what I carry is like, I want to be able to push press that ladder comfortably with a restriction of my breather on and my shoulder restriction. So to me, I should be able to push press 135 10 times. That is because I want to be able to not get injured. I want to be able to like hold up my end of what I should be contributing. And then also that when I'm exhausted and fatigued, I want that to not be, that's not what I want my mind to be focused on. My mind should be focused on like the tactics or what we're working on or the problem at hand, not if I can like physically execute.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. So that's where my drive come from. And I do like when we talk to other girls and stuff about it, honestly, I do think that that's a universal thought with like a lot of us girls. And I think that's a big thing that we talk about is, and honestly, like a lot of the, like all the guys I work with are really supportive and they feel the same way. Like, no, you know, and they feel the same way about other guys. Like I have guys I work with that are shorter than me that are like way stronger. Yeah. And then and vice versa. And then there's guys that are taller that don't necessarily push as much weight, but they're like momentum in the way they carry themselves. Like they physically execute just fine. Yeah. And same with girls, you know? Yeah. Yeah, so all right, then you're going to the gym and we're moving into our segment of what do you bring in your bag to training. So can you give me at least one item that is kind of a must-have for you if you are going to the gym about to execute one of your trainings? My chafing cream.
Your chafing cream. Yeah. Wait, that is the best.
No, like
answer.
Legit. Like that hurts.
Immediate
I need chafing cream.
Immediate answer.
That thick thighs. I need chafing cream.
I freaking love that. Sponsor her. Maybe that needs to be a sponsor of this podcast. I think much more of us can relate to that. Well, we are just pulling up to your gym. Angela, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I love you.
Thanks for having me. I love you.
And I'm so happy we got to do this day at work together. And I'm sure I will see you very soon.
You're coming inside with me.
Yes, I'm going to go work out.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.